gym, how do we start that? I don't know why I do that, but maybe it's my way of getting going. You know, things in football and in wrestling and baseball, these little like cheers and shit like that. I'm good. I into that kind of stuff, but I know other people that did. My brother loved that stuff. He just loved it. He got so into it. But today we're talking about horror stories. What are some of the horror stories that you've heard in a gym? I want to hear the bad, the ugly, the terrible. I want to hear, what did you experience? What did you see? What did you smell? You know, what did you hear? What were the horror stories? You know, I worked in a lot of gyms. Before I started Grit Gym, I worked in 3 other gyms, really. I worked at a D1 college, and then I worked at a corporate gym, and then I worked at like a mom and pop big box gym here in Iowa City. And so I've got like it's amazing the stuff that these businesses have been able to get away with that are just crazy ideas. Not crazy ideas, they're just crazy stuff, just crazy wild stuff. It's just like, some of it's gross, some of it's funny, some of it's just, they're horror stories, you know? And not just the members. It wasn't just the members or the staff. Like sometimes it was the staff too, is what I was trying to say. Sometimes it was the way that the place was kept, you know? Not like I'm perfect, and Grit Gym is, you know, we take out our bleach, anti-germ, everything, and swatch every single speck of every single wall down every single day. But we keep it clean, we keep it tight. I really like things to be tidy, organized, right where they're supposed to go. So what are your big things? What have you heard gyms do that is just absolutely ugly? And a few of the things, the way this video actually started out was the worst way to pick a gym. And then I just was like coming up with all these horror stories. I was like, we're gonna call this horror stories. So what are some of yours? Write them down in the comments below. Tell me what they are. I wanna discuss them with you. I wanna hear, you know, I'm all for a funny story. And most of the time horror stories from gyms turn into funny stories. There was a guy at one place that I worked. He's old. I mean, this guy's probably maybe in his early 90s, late 80s. He's not a young man, and he kind of was a little hunched over, but he was really thin, and he worked out every day. And kudos to him. You know, nothing against him there, but it was always kind of funny because he wore these kind of longer, looser T-shirts, and then he wore like these volleyball, like what girls wear to play volleyball. These short little shorts, and they're really tight, and you couldn't see him until he would reach up and grab something overhead, and then his shirt would lift up. And he always looked like he was naked, so we called him Naked John. I'm not even sure if his first name was John, but he was Naked John to us. And Naked John was actually a pretty nice guy, but he was Naked John. He probably would have laughed at Naked John too. I don't remember if we ever told him that. I've seen crazy stuff like you walk into a locker room and some old guy is blow drying his balls, or flossing. Like flossing. I don't mean like flossing your teeth, the other sort of flossing, with a towel. We used to have to check the steam room for inappropriate activity when, at one of the places that I worked, actually both of the places that I worked. One of the places that I worked actually had a steam room where we'd have to walk in and make sure that people weren't shaving their face. Like, gross, right? There was once a situation where this repeatedly happened. And it's just like, I'm never getting in that pool again. I'm never touching that pool again. Because the person who is managing the pool, they went weeks without checking it. I think you're supposed to check it 3 times a day or every 2 hours or something like that. But yeah, they went weeks without checking it for the levels of basically how much poop is in the pool. Yuck. Also, I worked at another place that they were so bent on numbers and sales, and it was just like, dude, I'm here to service these people. I'm here to get the most incredible service I possibly have. They deserve it. I want to be the best coach I possibly can. I'm not here to manipulate a bunch of people. And that's all that they talked about. Anything that they could do to get you manipulated into the sale. There was this one lady who she would walk people right up to the mirror and say, there's no way you can be happy with that. What a jerk. Like that's insane to me. I've never done that. I never thought of doing it. That's just insane that she was willing to do that. And she would write, I forget what her numbers were, but they were astronomical. But 25% of the people would come in the next day and cancel on what they signed up for with her. But if you guys don't mind, please knock that share button, share this out publicly. So you hit right post and you hit public, and it'll share it with all your friends, and they can get on, and we can make this kind of a community deal. You know, it's going to take some numbers to actually get enough horror stories, or to get a lot of horror stories, but there are so many out there. I mean, now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but there are some really crazy things that have happened in the world, you know, like Naked John, or what you see in locker rooms and male locker rooms anyway. Nuts. I do know a girl that she had gone through cancer and had a bunch of surgeries. And so she had a bunch of stitches all over her body. She was changing a lot. I don't know how old, like maybe upper middle age, let's say, were like snickering about her and like didn't know. And like, I think they wanted to say something probably, but they didn't know what. And she walks, and she had cancer. So there were surgeries, and she walked up to them and said, "Really bad lawnmower accident," and walked away, which I just think is awesome and hilarious and fantastic. I'm so glad she did that. But what are some of yours? What are some of you guys? What are some of the things that you've heard that are just absolutely terrible in gyms? What are some of the things that you've seen, experienced, smelled? What have you experienced in gyms that are good? Your horror stories. Like I said, what's the worst way to gym? We've got 5 different things. Number one, the big dog. Number one is to click Google Maps. Google gyms that are within whatever. This is a really silly way to. I just lost the live feed on Facebook. We're gonna get it back going here again. Who's on? Who's on? What's going on, guys? We got momentary pause. You guys have any horror stories? Rach, you're here. Do you have any horror stories? You didn't tell any. I can see it here. Thanks. YouTube will be able to see it here too. But Facebook is good. I don't know why I'm not here. And I go here and go back on. Maybe, yeah. So we're going to jump off of, and we're going to jump on to Facebook. Go live. Oh, shit. Cursing all over the place, aren't I? Post. We're going to go live. And we're going to get going again. Connecting. Hey, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. Go live. Hey, disconnected. I don't know what's going on with the internet here, but it's not the most fun thing in the world. So you're going to get 2 videos out of this one. So maybe I'll title them different. But what's the worst way to pick a gym? One of the worst ways to pick the gym is to just click click Google Maps and see what's around you. You know, you've got to do some research. Clicking that unless you like, maybe you luck out. Maybe you luck out. You're on the northeast side of Iowa City, and maybe you luck out. But don't take that for chance. Don't take that chance, okay? The other way, lowest price. Lowest price is Facebook. Work with me. All right, we're going to Instagram, and I'm just going to go on the phone. We're going to use this. Three video. Sorry, guys. So, are we back? Are we back? Madison, are we live on? I'm going to get out of this. All right, technical difficulties. Guys, hit me a line. Hit me a line and tell me if we're live right now, because it logged off and then it logged us back on. So I don't really know what's going on, but I'm not going to know for 45 seconds or so, but stick around because we're sharing horror stories. So if this is live, write down below and tell me that it's live, and I'll wait a little bit. But lowest price is not the way. Hey, you can see me? Okay, great. But lowest price, so Google Maps is number one. Do not, unless you are on the northeast side of Iowa City, there's a very low chance that you are going to be able to hit a good place to work out. Most gyms in the world are garbage. Just absolutely garbage. They are not up to a standard that is even close to. Thanks, Joanne. Awesome. They're not even close to like how many gyms actually do an assessment even, and or use that assessment for anything. I got in a discussion one time with a guy who's like, "Well, you do an assessment. What do you do with it?" It's like, dude, what do you think I do with it? I designed the program off of that. What do you do with it? He's like, we just do the same program on every person. Like, you might go shoot yourself. Not shoot yourself like in the head, but shoot yourself in the foot. That'd be better. That's better. But okay, so Google Maps, lowest price. Lowest price is really silly too. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see with other gyms. They're trying to win the price war. Dude, like one of the things that we do, like we set our price point because it's an investment on you guys' part or on whoever is coming in. When you put that amount of money down on the table, it makes you invest your time and your effort and your energy, and it makes you more likely to succeed. It is much more for the client than it is for us. Like we need to keep the lights on and everything, but it's much more for the client than it is for us because it's an investment in their time. Plus you're going to pay for that somehow. Like the difference between like Ace Hardware and Walmart, like you might pay a little extra to go to Ace Hardware, but you're paying for the service, you're paying for their knowledge, you're paying for their smile, you're paying for their time, because they're going to come around and they're going to help you and they're going to be on top of it. You go to Walmart, you're not getting greeted, you're not going to talk to anybody. It's this huge warehouse. Like you're going to pay for that somehow. You're going to pay for that saving somehow. So you got to look at what are they offering. Are they offering personal training? Are they offering semi-private training? Are they offering group training? And are those groups giving like within that group, are you in there with like 70 other people that are all doing the same crappy cardio workout and you never do any lifting, even though they say that they do lifting? That's not lifting. That's not strength training. Is that what you're in there for? Or are you just leasing the opportunity to exercise like at these big box gyms where you pay $10 a month? What's the service? Number three is buying on equipment. My gym has the most amazing equipment in the world. There's three big things that gym owners do or that personal trainers do that have no clue what they're talking about. They either buy no equipment and just have this room full of bands and punching bags, or they buy super, super expensive equipment, or they just fill the entire place to the max with equipment overload. These are three big red flags on people who have never trained anyone before, have no idea what they're talking about, and probably never even trained themselves. Number four is don't choose your gym based on your gym's photo shoot. Okay? If your trainer is trying to be a model, then they're not trying to be a coach. You want the coach, not the model. So if your trainer is sitting there having photo shoot after photo shoot after photo shoot, don't go. That's not a coach. It's not a trainer. They probably have no clue what they're talking about. Don't take advice from a hypocrite. We were talking about this last night. We had a guy in here to interview. I never turn an interviewer down. Yeah, I never have. You want to come in, you want to interview, I'll come in. I'll give you a shot. I'm always looking for that awesome person to step in here that is outrageously good at what they do. They want to improve. They want to learn. They want to help people. They care on an extremely deep level. They have conviction to what they're doing, and they want to serve, and they're hard workers. But if you are sitting there being a hypocrite and you're taking advice from this person, or if your trainer or your coach is being a hypocrite, eating McDonald's every single day and eating pizza every night and never eating their vegetables and drinking pop, as a hypocrite. You cannot go to somebody who has never done what you're trying to do or has never been through, like if I've never cut any fat, I have no business talking to you about cutting fat. Now, I don't need to, like, I'm not saying that I needed to lose 100 pounds to know what to be able to teach someone how to lose 100 pounds. But I need to at least know what hunger feels like, at least know what the discipline feels like, at least been there on some level before. And if they've never done it and they're not willing to do it now, then they don't get to tell you how to do it. So that's number 5. You cannot go to a trainer who is not in shape, who eats junk, who doesn't work out, and you can tell each of these before you shake their hand. So those are my top 5. Don't use Google Maps to pick your gym. Don't go for the lowest price. It's not the best. Equipment is a telltale sign. If they have too much equipment, or if their equipment is bright and shiny, everything's perfect, or they don't have any equipment at all, those are big red flags. If they have just photo shoots of themselves and glamour shots, all this stuff, that's a person who's not focused on what is actually going to help you get to where you want to go. And don't ever take advice from a hypocrite. That doesn't mean like I eat pizza. Don't get me wrong. 20% of the time, you get to eat stuff like that. If you're good 80% of the time, you're good. But paying for quality, absolutely. Get what you pay for. Yeah, you totally do. There are some things where you pay more and the perceived value is actually just perceived value. It's not actual value, but I think those are few and far between. Like fish oil is one of those things where you do get what you pay for. Balsamic vinegar, one of those things. Have you ever tried like really expensive balsamic vinegar? It is drastically different from the cheap stuff. Drastically different from the cheap stuff. But what are you guys' horror stories? What are you guys' horror stories in gyms? What have you seen, experienced, heard, smelled? Some of the stuff that I see, bands upon bands upon bands, and I'm talking about like bands, like stretchy bands, that every single person in the gym is working out with bands, and they're just banding people to death. And nothing, like bands have a place, don't get me wrong, bands are great, but at some point, it's a little silly. I've also seen where people have like 60 to 80 people in one room with one trainer, and that trainer has gone through the program that they're on once before, and that's the only thing that is causing the reason that they are saying that they're qualified to do this. So they don't have any education. They maybe picked up a fitness magazine. They're taking everybody through the same exact program. And to me, that blows my mind. For instance, like no two people are alike. You look at Kevin Durant, he's 6'7", but he's got a 7'6" wingspan. Or you look at people with a really deep hip socket or a really shallow hip socket. Their pelvis is completely different. Some people's pelvis kind of looks like this. Some people's pelvis is kind of wider and out to the side and kind of shaped just a little different. Some people, the head of their femur kind of sits up in there a little different, so they can't squat deep. We have a kid in here right now, a high school kid, that he is a product of a coach screaming at him to go ass to grass on every single squat. And what did he do? He tore his labrum. He tore the labrum in his hip because too many people screamed at him, ass to grass, ass to grass, ass to grass. And he's one of those kids that would go outside and eat the dog shit because anything to get better. So he did, and he tore his labrum because they have no clue what they're talking about. Push-ups galore. Push-ups are a great exercise. It doesn't mean you do 1,000 of them in a day. Too many reps. I see punching bag, punching bag, punching bag, punching bag. At some point, it's too many reps. Too many reps. You're not trying to be a boxer. You're trying to get a cardiac effect. Get your cardiac effect some other way besides beating up on your wrist and your fingers. We already talked about ass to grass. This is the stupidest thing. This is the dumbest thing. It's so easy to figure this out. You put them on their back and you push their knee up to their chest, and wherever they stop, that's where they should squat to. They shouldn't go past that. Past that's actually a really bad thing. Cookie cutter programs where everybody gets the exact. Don't get me wrong, I don't reinvent the wheel every time that I write a program, and neither should anybody else. But cookie cutter programs are a really good way, telltale sign to know that you're in the wrong place. And these are horror stories. Like this is just a horror story of gyms putting out bad stuff. And the other one is, the last one I've written down is just cardio. They're just cardioing you to death. This idea that you can get cardio and strength training at the same time is bogus. You cannot do this. And I like to think that all things are possible and that yes, you can. But this is one of those situations where you got to choose. Are you doing cardio right now, or are you doing strength training? Because if you're trying to do them at the same time, you can't. For instance, there's that what is it called, a proverb or whatever, that you can't sit on 2 horses with one ass. Good luck. Good luck sitting on both of those horses with one butt. What are some of you guys'? Joanne told me about how in her high school they had a pipe fitted to a football helmet, and they would put weights on it and do neck exercises. You know, this is one of those things. With your body, you want to train for bad position, but you never use bad position to train. So you don't train with bad position. Does that make sense? You don't, like you don't do crunches, or you don't go into a bad position, a slouch position, and lift from there. That would be training with a bad position. You train to get stronger. You get stronger so that if you were to get in a bad position, your body can handle it. But you don't train with bad position. So that would be training for a bad position. In my high school, our shop class did all of the weights. This is back before there were like all the child labor laws and everything. So that it used to be kind of a decent thing. The high schools could make a squat rack in welding class, and then that's what would get used. I mean, some of the equipment was really bad. So if you were on the bench press, let's say, and you put the bar back, when you switched partners, somebody had to hold down the seat until someone else came and sat down. That's the kind of place that I lifted in. Or one time we had the squat rack literally busted because the bead wasn't there very well. So the squat rack busted. There's no insulation on the wall. So in the wintertime, it was pretty cold. When you would do bench press with dumbbells, you'd have to close your eyes because of all the rust that fell in, and then you'd have to sit up and you'd wipe your face off like that. When you pulled the pin on your lat pull down machine, you had to have a hold of the bar, because it was a decently heavy bar, but it didn't have the safety stuff that we have today. And the bar would just come down and smoke you right in the top of the head. You only made that mistake a few times. For me, a few times. Everybody else probably made it once. Kind of dumb. Takes a while. Hard head. When I went out into Division I football, actually, I was with Matt McGettigan, who's a very anal person, very, very, very much militant. That's what I was going for. He was great. I'm so glad that I had him, because the next place that I went to and the next place after that were horrendous. I mean, horrendous. One of the guys that I worked with had ringworm so bad. I mean, I've never seen it. I wrestled from second grade into college, and he had a ringworm covering his body. He would wear hooded sweatshirts to cover it up because it was coming up underneath his neck. It was like on his face, and he'd cover it up. It was nasty. And everybody was coming, getting ringworm, and he wouldn't do anything about it. He wouldn't put anything on his body. He had to wear that every day, no matter how hot it got. He would cover his legs and his body. I mean, it's just gross, just disgusting. This guy was also a huge thief. He just stole everything he could. I mean, I even asked him when I saw something in his bag one time. I was like, it's none of my business, but I was like, what, did you just take that? Yeah, I wasn't being mean to him or anything. It was just like, did you? And he goes, yeah, I see stuff like that, and I just have to have it. And I was like, ooh, man, that sounds like a problem. You should probably challenge that. This guy was a scuds bucket. He was not a very good person. And these are the kind of people that you got to watch out for, because this guy was a personal trainer. He was a strength coach. I wouldn't put him in the strength coach category. I put him in the personal trainer category. But everybody loved that dude. What are some of the other ones? I mean, I've seen so much stupid stuff in gyms. It's kind of insane. Go to your local high school. You'll see kids doing RDLs or straight leg deadlifts, and their back is just going like this. They're not bending at the hips. Their butt won't even go back. They'll just bend over and crank on their low back. Or they'll stand up on a box, and they'll do RDLs or straight leg deadlifts, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that feels so good. And they're just cranking on that lower back. I mean, they're setting themselves up for some bad stuff. I've seen high school coaches that are like, the ass to grass thing, they'll do the same thing with dumbbells in their hands, trying to bring the elbows down as far as you possibly can. That is absolutely inaccurate as possibly can be. It's really silly. Most high school weight rooms are just real sad. I actually heard one the other day. This girl was training a group of baseball players, and apparently for one phase, they would do 2 sets of 20 barbell bench press. Just like you would rarely barbell bench a baseball player, especially within like 4 weeks or 4 months of season. That would, like, even if you did, like, you'd have to have the most stable of stable shoulders and everything in the right position to be able to do that. I don't know. I'm sure I'll think of more as time goes along, but what are some of you guys? What have you seen? Have you seen anything? Because I want to hear yours. I think yours are much more entertaining than mine are. I've heard some around the gym. We had a lady once that I swore she was drunk. She would, like, one time she almost dropped a kettlebell on somebody's head and decapitated someone. I mean, it's just crazy, crazy stuff. Even like innocent stuff, like doing a kettlebell swing where the kettlebell slips out of somebody's hand and goes flying across the room. You try to mitigate risk as much as you possibly can, but this is stuff that I've seen happen before. We really crank down on safety at Grit, luckily, but it does happen. Yeah, what's the worst way to pick a gym? What's the worst way to pick a gym? Google Maps, lowest price, equipment. If your trainer has a bunch of photo shoots, and then never, ever, ever take advice from a hypocrite. Don't ever take advice from a hypocrite. Google Maps, you're going on luck. Lowest price, you're probably not going to get the service that you want. You get what you paid for. Equipment, if there's no equipment, that's a red flag. If there's a bunch of super expensive equipment, that's a red flag. If there's equipment that is just packed, it's just got the place packed so you can barely walk around in it, big red flag. If your trainer is doing photo shoots every 10 weeks or something like that, they're trying to be a model. They're not trying to be a coach. They're not trying to train you. And then never take advice from a hypocrite. Why would you take advice from a hypocrite? Why? It'd be like going to a financial planner that's $100,000 in debt and has no income. And I mean, like, you never go to someone who hasn't at least done some version of what you're doing, what you're trying to do. Aaron says, I had a running coach tell me to go run or sweat off a cold that turned into a chest infection. That's nice. Super rich. That's like, hey, can you swim underneath of an island? That's almost what that reminds me of. Just something that dumb. Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of these kind of things where, like, coaches just have these absurd, like one of them that's really common is you got to go out there and you got to get angry. Anger is being scared. I think that's really silly. I don't think there's any reason to go out and be angry. You got to go out there and be present, robotic, killer. Like some of the other lessons, life lessons that coaches tell. Football is like life. There's no point in any relationship that I've ever had outside of football where we line up head to head and hit as hard as we possibly can. Football is not like life. Sports have some carryover to business and things like that, and other competitive segments, but football is not like life. But we're coming up on that 30-minute mark. Thanks for being here, guys. I hope this was a little bit entertaining. I mean, maybe not as much as some of the other stories that you guys hear that I can go into a little bit more detail on when we're going back and forth. But we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. What's going on, man?
Appreciate you.